Welcome, everyone, to Fellowship of Fans Season 2. This is our first episode of our weekly deep dive analysis and lore episode, Sundays at, 7 p.m. UK time. You can figure out your own from there. We've got a lot to get through today. We have 3 episodes, so we're going to get right to it. But first, let me introduce our fantastic panelists. Some really great lore experts here today. You all know Strider, of course.
Hey, this is going to be a fun one.
And we welcome back Lakita. It's been a while, at least since I've seen you. Welcome back.
Yeah, it has. Thanks for having me back. Great seeing you guys.
Of course.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's great to have you here.
Yeah. And I think to start, before we dive into the episode, since it's been 2 years since we've sort of had time to chat about real live episodes, and it's been a while. We've had plenty of time to sit with our thoughts on season 1. I would love to hear what your guys' sort of first impressions, just general impressions from the first 3 episodes before we dig into the specifics. How do you guys feel about, just in a vacuum, what did you think of them? And then also compared to the first season, how do you guys feel about them so far? Why don't we start with you, Lakita?
Okay, so first off, I have this gripe with the show. I was really looking forward to, having season 2 back and everything. And then they go and kill off Waldrek. I mean, what was with that? Yeah. I was looking forward, he was my favorite person from season 1. So that was a huge blow. Otherwise, I quite enjoyed these episodes, I must say. I think some of the problems from season 1 persist even now, namely, my biggest gripe was with just dialogue and some, I don't know, plot was illogical to me at some point, some lore inconsistencies, but mostly for me, it's the dialogue and very stiff delivery in certain cases. But overall, I had fun. Even I heard a lot of people say they were not very happy with the rune plot line. I wasn't that bothered by it at all. So yeah, great to have the show back and looking forward to upcoming episodes.
What about yourself, Strider?
Well, I've talked so many times here about all the things that I wasn't happy with in season 1. I feel like season 2 is better. Like it's like it feels like season 2 so far. So the first 3 episodes that we're covering now had like several more drafts. Like it went through like 2 or 3 drafts more, which I feel like kind of fixed most of the issues that maybe were quite common. But I mean, I do agree. Like, still definitely room for improvement. Sometimes dialogue and the delivery can be a bit clunky, depending also on the storyline and so on. But still, overall, like I think this has been, for me personally, quite a major step up. Like the pace is better. Like I feel like I'm having more fun in general. I think, yeah, it's just like it just feels like more ironed out, like more tucked in. Like when you put on a suit and then you make sure that it fits well, and then you do your sleeves and like all those little details. And like once you do that, like then it feels like you get like the complete picture. And I feel like this one is season 1. So yeah, overall, nice surprise. Quite better for me.
Yeah, I'll dive into the specifics in just a sec. I'll just say for my part, I definitely think I sort of enjoyed it more. It moves quicker. There's a lot happening. But the one sort of major gripe that I have that's sort of persisted from season 1 is it feels like there are a number of things that we're sort of just going over so fast that we don't have time to sit with sort of the repercussions of something that they're trying to build is like a big moment, Not all the time, but like moments like the stranger, needing more water and stuff like that, and then them being overjoyed when they find it, and it all happens in like 45 seconds. But overall, definitely think that it was a step up. Let's get to some lore stuff. some of the stuff I know for myself, but others it's hard to keep up with every single little detail. One of the things that stood out for me from season 1 is we have Sauron getting sliced and diced, sort of Julius Caesar style, right? And then he opens his mouth and shoots out, I guess, freezing. He basically freezes all of Fordwaith in the span of 10 seconds, kind of a reverse Mount Doom, if you will. What do you guys think of that sort of description? And do you think that sort of fits within the context of sort of lore or the sort of magic you'd expect from like the Lord of the Rings universe or the Legendarium?
Can I just have one quick comment that actually doesn't have anything to do with lore? But this particular scene we're seeing on the screen right now really reminded me of the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Strider will know what I'm talking about. When Aang faces the Fire Lord and goes all like, so that was a funky visual.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed in the whole backstory because what I kept thinking was, that's it? Like, that's what's been happening with Sauron ever since Adar betrayed him. He spent an eternity in a cave being this blobby thing, and then like the moment he's released, he turns into Halbrand and off we go to Númenor. So I was a little bit disappointed that there's not more meat to that story. I don't know how they'll connect the whole orcs hating him with later on him being their servant. That's gonna feel a little exploitative, which is what they're going for, I suppose. But I would love. I saw this coming up quite a lot in the past couple of days. I would love to see more scenes with the original form Sauron, especially as people have been saying. I'd love to see scenes with him and Finrod, but I guess we're not totally seeing that at all.
I have to say, as far as that sort of interim aspect of Sauron that we get, I really did like the way they chose to sort of express his sort of primordial goo sort of element. Like it gave me like halfway between like Fern Gully and Princess Mononoke.
Okay.
And I thought that it did a good job of expressing that no matter how fair this character is on the outside, this is always what's on the inside. But to your point, Laketia, it did feel like, for me at least, something was really weird about the way they framed the timing, right? Like it was like in 15 minutes from the beginning of the Second Age to meeting Galadriel. What did you feel about that, Strider? Did you feel rushed to, or do you think they were just taking sort of artistic liberties with how they showed it?
I mean, I think I about it overall. I think it all looks cool, and it does fill in the gaps left from season 1, but it doesn't fill in all of them, or at least not completely. Still, how did they meet each other in the middle of an ocean? Like, why is he there? And also, I was kind of hoping, one of my biggest hopes was that we would see how causing the blight in London. I feel like that thing is still not explained. It might get explained. Who knows? There's still a lot of time for them to show. But I feel like I think that was the main thing I was hoping. This plane, but still overall, I guess it looks cool, but it was kind of weird that like this is the only things that happened. It's like what, 1,000 years. But I did like the visual of actually the first time somebody posted it on Twitter or whatever, that you can see like the stalactite like growing while he is reforming in the cave. So I think that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that. No.
Yeah, I missed that also. That's really cool.
But maybe the thing with the blight in Lindon is that, the blight does appear when Sauron returns from being in the cave. So maybe that's their reasoning. Because that's around the same time, I suppose.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Mm.
Yeah,
Now,
I just wish, like, I think, I mean, again, I will have to see. Maybe they do have a plan for that, but if not, I think they could here, because, like, it looks suspiciously the same. Like, it looks very similar. It looks like something that would come off from this reforming body. But yeah,
Mhm.
I saw someone suggesting that the moment on the ship after he sort of awakes from his bad dream or whatever, that's the moment of Sauron sort of showing contrition, right? Like maybe having some remorse for his actions. And I think, do you think that that's all we're going to get at that? My understanding was that, that sort of, he does have that moment, but it's sort of after the fall of Númenor. Do you think that's what we were witnessing there? Or do you guys think that we're going to get more of that, or sort of more arc to that character? Or is that it? Like he's full on evil here on out?
He seemed full on evil to me. At least, with the guy he takes the sigil thing from, there was nothing. And, as soon as he gets out of the cave, he murders somebody in order to take a form. So was that remorse just, what was shown in the cave where, like when he was talking to the orcs, I think he was showing a pretty, I don't know, a very corruptive streak from the get-go. So I don't think they actually leaned too far into the redemption arc, because I know that they've talked about it in after season 1 and stuff, that he went to Númenor with good intention, etc. But I don't know, that it didn't seem that way to me, but maybe I missed something.
I think I agree. I would love to see a little bit of that arc, actually.
Yeah.
But I didn't really read it and that sort of stuff. What about you, Strider? Do you think that we're what do you think of sort of the portrayal? Not like, let's talk before we get to Annatar. As far as what we see of Halbrand, this sort of stretch. Do you think it like kind of gave you answers to sort of the Halbrand that we really got to see more of in season 1?
there are things missing here, because I mean, okay, to be fair, I did like the scene when he meets some of those refugees, and then he kind of moves on with them in a way. I see what they were trying to do. I think it went all right, but I feel like we haven't completely seen enough of his. I feel like some hoping for more, I guess. But I have to say, like, in one of these scenes, when we finally see his face, when he like eats that lady with the cart, he looks so much like Viggo Mortensen. Like this scene, and then one
Oh,
of the
okay.
angles, like from the side, I was like, they really absolutely 1000% went Rider Aragorn vibe there. But yeah, I think it was all right. I expected definitely a lot more from it, and I hope maybe we at some point get some more of
Well,
this.
let's skip
Can I
forward a
just
little bit. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, just one quick comment. I just want to the whole thing with the gooey creature climbing out of the cave and consuming the rat in the first place, that really reminded me of Stranger Things. So to the point that to me it felt kind of like a tiny ripoff in a way. So yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. But yeah,
Yeah, I can see that.
back to you.
Let's skip. I want to stick with Sauron because really it does seem like it's going to be his story. This, as they've sort of said, right? We're sticking with him a lot more this season. But let's move forward to him meeting Adar, and all of those interactions. That's been hyped up a lot, and obviously Adar doesn't yet know who he is. But what did you think of sort of those interactions? And first of all, let's also ask, what do you think of the new Adar? I mean, replacing one of sort of, I think, the most popular characters from the first season. Is he, is the new actor? Is he living up to the sort of the role, the high bar that was set? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Strider.
I think so. Yeah, Adar was absolutely one of my favorite characters from season 1, and I feel like Sam Hazeldine did a great job so far, taking over the role, especially because it was so iconic. I feel like a difference between the two of them, but I feel like it can kind of also relate to the story. Like you can accept it as a part of the story. If we just talk about Adar as a character, for example, without the two actors, without this meta aspect, I feel like Adar in season 1 was kind of more the two sides of his personality, elf and an orc, or an uruk, and I feel like in this season, so it's more like he kind of came to terms with. Big plan came to fruition. There was a shift happening, and now he kind of accepted this other role of, okay, well, here I am now. We did what we set out to do. Now I have to lead my people. We now have to like settle in. So I feel like it was a good transition between the two actors so far, and I feel like it kind of was sort of like a cool impact on the story of Adar himself as well. I don't know if that makes sense. It does make sense in my head. But yeah, overall, I like him so far.
I like him too. I like that they stayed pretty close with the Adar from season 1. I think recently, with a lot of recastings in other shows, they went completely different direction when the new actor was cast, like Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones. Here they really stuck as close as possible. I think Joseph Mall's Adar was a little bit more otherworldly. This Adar seems, I don't know, maybe that's just the actor's face, but his face seems a lot kinder, so he doesn't seem as menacing to me. But I do like the performance, and I know that it was a really tough job that he took on, especially with how well received Joseph Maltadar was. But I'm enjoying it so far, even though his hair is much more lush and he looks like an 80s rock star. But yeah,
He looks
it's
pretty cool.
fun.
The fifth member of Kiss.
Perfect.
That's it.
So I have first of all, one of my favorite aspects of the first episode, which I'll say, I think of the 3 episodes, I thought it was the weakest, personally. But one of my favorite.
Sorry, which one? The third?
The first episode.
Oh, the first. Okay.
Was the weakest. But one of the things I really did like was Sauron, Halbrand, when he was in captivity, right? First of all, the way he, the sort of subtle, subtly saying he had allegiance to the Lord of Mordor, which could be interpreted as having allegiance to himself, right? And then the whole scene with the wolf in the cell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting if that was episode 2 or not, but at any rate, I really liked his acting there. But there was one thing that I was kind of curious about. I'm curious if you guys actually know the answer to this. Halbrand takes a lot of beatings and seems to really be feeling the pain in a lot of this, and of course we saw him get killed by being stabbed and stuff. In this sort of like human form that he has, is he feeling like the pain as though he's immortal with a mortal body, or is that like an acting sort of ploy to make people think that he's human? Do you guys know, did Tolkien say anything about that, or if not, what is your guess?
I would speculate on that it's an act for him, because I think when the Istari came, that was a sort of an oddity, because they were actually given older bodies that were subject to pain, etc. And I think they were the odd ones out. I don't imagine the other Maiar to be subject to the same sort of feelings. I could be wrong though.
Yeah,
What do you think,
I would, if I had to make a bet as well, I would say he's faking it well, or at least vastly exaggerating, because if he has a mortal body, I would expect that he would have some kind of consequences of having a mortal body. If you hit him, if you stab him, he'll feel pain. But as we saw in the Caesar's last moments scene in the intro, he can take a lot of beating. So I feel like he was faking it because he had to pretend he was a human, and a human person would definitely suffer from being hit, being like with the collar and so on. Like, so I feel like it was probably an act, and I think it fits quite a whole mind these episodes.
Yeah.
But what you just pointed out, though, the original form Sauron being, torn to bits, that sort of goes against what I was saying, because they did seem to manage killing his form or whatever. So I don't know.
No, I mean, I think he gets stabbed many times, and he takes like first 10, 15 stabs like they're almost nothing to him, just keeps slashing at his attackers. So I feel like more durable if he wants to be. I feel like so I think it's quite likely that he's just faking here as Halbrand.
One thing I thought
he can
of,
for sure. Yeah.
I was thinking that, sort of famously, this happens with Morgoth too, right? That, and it happens through Sauron over the course of the Second Age and into the Third, that every time they lose their mortal physical body, or the physical body they choose to be perceived in, it gets harder and harder for them to sort of reincarnate a physical self, especially an attractive one. Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's that he hasn't gained enough power yet, right? Like in the Third Age, it takes him over 1,000 years to sort of slowly gain his power back. So maybe it's just he's, I don't know, to put it in Dragon Ball Z terms, he's not in his final form yet, so to speak, and so he's more vulnerable.
That's true, though. After the downfall of Númenor, it doesn't take him that long to recuperate in Middle-earth and gain a sort of body, even though it's obviously not the body that he wanted. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another part of. Oh, go ahead, Strider. Pardon me.
Let's maybe address some of these questions in the chat. I feel like those some interesting questions. So we have Cam here. Since Sauron is paired with the Galadriel in season 1 and Celebrimbor season 2, who will be the characters he will interact with the most in the rest of the show? I think it's quite likely that the next big leg of Sauron's journey will be in season 3.
Cameron.
It will be in Númenor, right. Probably at some point. I guess either season 3 or season 4, but he will be a wrong pair with Pharazôn. So yeah, I think that's a pretty solid bet to make. The BFF he hasn't interacted with yet is going to be fine.
Do you think he'll maintain his Halbrand? Will he maintain his Halbrand face, or will he be Annatar when engaging with Pharazôn?
I think it might be another form altogether again. A form to specifically made to attract Númenorians, because that would be. I don't know how they plan on spacing out the seasons, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he takes a different form every season, or possibly the same form for the last 2 seasons or something. I don't know when the downfall of Númenor is, but I would imagine him being, now that he's interacting with Celebrimbor, he looks like a fantastic, very magnificent elf, and I would suppose he gets closer to what a Númenorian looks like for those seasons.
Well, let's move on from Sauron for a bit, just because we got other things to talk about. One of the coolest moments for me was finally getting to see Círdan on screen. I mean, the oldest elf in Middle Earth, old even in the Second Age. I thought that was really cool to just get to see that on screen.
He is so pretty.
Yeah, I wanted to give me, Laketia, give me your thoughts on it. Like, first of all, what do you think? Just without sort of the Lord of the Rings background, or the sort of Tolkien background you have, what would you think? And then putting it in the context of the lore and timeline and stuff, what do you think of that?
Okay, without the lore, hi daddy. He's just so pretty. I can't help it. He's very, very pretty.
Wait, quick question: shaved or not shaved?
I specifically without the shaving on screen. That was the most WTF moment for me in the whole 3 episodes. Like, why do we have to see him shave? And why would he shave? It doesn't make any sense to me. Just, if you decide to show him with a beard, stick with it. I was a little bit afraid that they would be going with the rings rejuvenating him, and that would be why he would lose the beard, because we saw in some promo material he had the beard and in some he didn't, and people were speculating, was it a flashback, blah blah. But yeah, that was super weird to me. But like his appearance, his persona, his performance is, I think it's one of my favorites from the show. I never had any specific images in my mind what Círdan was supposed to look like, but that is absolutely it. I really like how soft spoken he is, really gentle. He really does have the wise vibe and everything. um I think it's a little bit early for him to have the beard though, but I suppose, it's such a unique quality of his. Everybody knows him for his beard, so they just had to include it until they didn't anymore. They just got tired of it or whatever. But yeah, I like him being as a sort of a mentor to Elrond. He does seem like very mentory person in the lore as well to Gil-galad, and
Yeah.
I like that there was some continuation with that, though I suppose we might touch upon it later. His whole change of heart regarding the rings, that didn't sit too well with me. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Strider? Are you Team Kier Daddy, or do you have a different opinion?
Um, I'm always for the beard, shockingly to everyone. I think he looks cool. I think it would be a very interesting thing to have this one elf ever on screen with a beard the whole time, because it just adds another layer to the world of Tolkien. And the elves are. Wait, I just want to see one of the comments here. So
Can I just say, one of the comments says Círdan has the same kind of beautiful aura that Galadriel in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I agree. Very ethereal, very, I don't know, warm in a way.
I wanted
like
to pull up
I can
one of the other.
agree with that.
I wanted to pull up one of the other comments. The Benson says, "Can anyone help me fill in the gaps between Círdan about to drop the rings in the water to show up at the ceremony of the rings, calling them perfection? Was he influenced by the rings?" I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on that, and then give me something, a relatively short answer to that, because I want to tie it into another question I have.
I read it as, I thought that he was seeing that as a sign from Ulmo. I don't know. They are positioning the rings to be somewhat malevolent. At least that's the perspective we get from Elrond, who seems to be the reasonable one. So yeah, I guess they're going with, yeah, he might be a little bit influenced by the rings. But the impression that I got was that he was like, oh wow, Ulmo did that, so I might want to reconsider.
Yeah, to
that
me,
was my reading as well, basically.
Yeah, it seemed also one of they tie the rings into what we do know, something we do know from the Third Age, right? Which the rings provide, an ability to keep the elves from fading, right? Now, obviously, there are some lore inconsistencies in terms of how that was originally conceived, but do you think that the way they sort of presented it here helped to sort of mollify some of the problems people had with the idea of the mithril and all that stuff from the first season? I mean, they kind of ditched the mithril thing and got straight to the idea of the rings being sort of this element of preservation. Do you think that was sort of well done? How do you guys feel about that in that sort of context? Let's start with you, Strider.
I'm not still sure how all of that makes sense, to be honest. I really never liked the whole, as we call them, the Mithril-Horians situation. That whole apocryphal story, and I just need an explanation. Like the bodies of elves, like the, talked a lot about the way their soul works, and like that's this level of serious in the lore. The show like dialed it to 11 and like got it right here in order to make them need rings. It just feels like kind of out of place. The whole blight with the tree that's also connected to the elves being able to stay in these lands. I'm not sure what's going on there, and then the fact that over that, because I still don't understand what was happening there. I feel like we didn't get enough. Like, what is this blight? You know, what is the cause, and how is this related to the souls and the bodies of elves? I'm curious if anybody in the chat has any theories about this. Maybe now you have some more proof for some theory. I'm not sure how to respond, to be honest. I'm still kind of stumped with that whole concept.
Lakiti, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm with Strider. But I also want to say that I think these are some fruits that season 1 is starting to, I don't know, reflect in terms of, I don't know, the whole mithril thing, yeah, but also Sauron having been a part of the creation of the three rings, in a manner of speaking. I think that's what they're going with right now. The rings being a sort of, you know, not entirely evil, obviously, but very seductive, very polarizing entity. So I think this is their internal mythology at play here, and I'm not sure that they know how to work it out, the whole thing. So I'm still a little bit iffy on the concept, and I'm absolutely not very happy with how Círdan, did a 180 on the whole thing, came back and was already wearing the ring, and he was like, okay, so I'm the ring bearer now.
Yeah,
That felt a little bit it came out of nowhere, and even the distribution of the rings, it felt so coincidental. It wasn't, I don't know, Celebrimbor specifying who the rings were going to, but it was Galadriel's ring literally fell to her feet, which, yeah, sure, fate or whatever, but it just felt way too random to me.
Yeah, I'll throw into that also that, kind of famously, Galadriel is supposed to be the one who is not taken by the mystique of the rings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they're really sort of, in my opinion, sort of flipping that on its head,
Yeah.
180 degrees from the way it's supposed to be, so to speak, which...
Yeah. And that's just the continuation of, her supposing to be the one who was not seduced by Sauron in the first place. She was the one who was skeptical of him in Eregion, where everybody else was, feeling a little bit seduced, and she was the one who stayed firm, and here she was the one who was seduced in the first place.
Yeah. And you know what? One other thing about them, the writers not treating Galadriel very nicely here. She's the only one who actually thought Sauron was still around, and she was right. Like, I feel like, everyone else should give, instead of just being like, how dare you get hoodwinked, should give her like a little bit of credit for being like, guys, there's still a problem here,
Yeah, this is drama for drama's sake.
Yeah.
What did you think about the way that Elrond is really sort of fulfilling the role that Galadriel is, in a sense, meant to take? I don't think I'm as familiar with what his original position on this is supposed to be. Do you think it sort of fits having him sort of fall into this role?
I have a quick comment on that. I find it a little bit odd that I know that they're trying to portray Galadriel's arc from, this rash warrior to the ethereal wise woman we know from the books and the movies. But to me, it seems so strange because they're going on about how she's very young here still and yada yada yada. But Elrond here is practically, a pup compared to her, and he's all wisdomous. So that feels a little bit weird to me, and I know that probably is because he's not as central to the story as she seems to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that feels a little bit weird to me, as though, she's granted a whole arc and he's supposed to be the same person that we know from later on. I don't know.
I want to jump forward a little bit. Just let's move into episode 2 and talk about some other folks again, just because a lot to cover today. I had prepared specifically some material to talk about for a dwarven friend of ours who ended up not showing up, betraying us, just as we all expected he would.
Okay, well, just before we move on to there, to all of this, just a quick answer to all foreign bud. So thanks for the answer. So you say that Kidna has never been to Valinor. Why would he need the light of the trees not to fade? I suppose it's their version of Morgoth's ring. I think it could be, like the whole world is marred in such a way that elves cannot simply live there anymore. But it's just like, it just feels like we lacked getting some kind of deeper explanation to it. It's just like, well, we are, this is what it is. And yeah, so I don't know. I think your theory is as good as any we came up so far. Honestly, it could be. I just feel like we got like a couple of sentences just explaining something. But as Gregory was saying, let's move on to the dwarves.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was really cool was us seeing the green of Khazad-dûm, the way that before things go to shit with the crashing of the caves. What do you guys think of that? Like, I don't know that I'm super familiar with what Khazad-dûm was actually meant to look like on the interior at this point. Is that something that Tolkien talked about at some point, or was that a show creation? And either way, what did you guys think of it?
I thought it was a nice little bit of world building. I don't think Tolkien ever specified that, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not very big on my dwarven lore. I thought it was really nice to see that, especially with how quickly, things, didn't turn out that great. I thought it looked really good. And I was just wondering actually that earlier today, because don't tell Varking, but I actually have a map of Moria at my place. And I was thinking how what I actually imagined it to look like in its peak, as we see here. It seems very, very grand, everything. And I really like that we do get some logic behind it, that we do actually see how they feed themselves. So that was lovely. Very. I know people criticized them in season 1 for not showing more of the elven culture and cities feeling very dead. We didn't see anything of Eregion, just like 2 or 3 courtyards, and that was it. And here we actually see some of their daily lives. So I really hope the elves are granted the same grace as the dwarves.
Yeah, I thought that whole element was really cool, seeing the dwarven marketplace and all that stuff. Strider, what did you think of the way they sort of took Durin 4 and put him to work as sort of just because he's not speaking with his dad and stuff, and then like he wasn't ready, and like the average, you could get the sense of like sort of a class difference and stuff. What did you think of that sort of portrayal? I mean,
So I would like to start by saying that I really liked that long shot of like from the outside, from like outside of the mountain, then into it, and then we go through like several different layers of like these large open spaces within the mountain. And I feel like these shots are something in season 1, where you would go from like this wide shot into like a close-up, and you kind of go over, you kind of skip this middle part that connects the big sweeping landscape with the little street or whatever way of transitioning through all of that. And then in this scene, it also serves a great function because it also like tells us a story, because it shows us where now Durin and Disa are, like on lower levels and so on. So I thought that was very interesting. To be honest, I'm not. I was never sure what to expect from these slice of life moments, especially within Khazad-dûm. I think with elves it might be a bit easier to kind of imagine what it will look like, but I feel like with the dwarves, I never had like a vision in my head how these things would look like. So it's interesting to see that. Oh, Priscilla
Yeah, hang
is
in
in
there.
the chat. Hey, hang in there, and welcome. So I think it was pretty cool to show us. I'm reserving my general thoughts on it. I feel like it works so far. I just hope they don't like overdo the family drama and so on, but behind. So it was an interesting bit of lore building. I'll just say it like that. I didn't dislike. I think it was pretty interesting, but
What did you guys think of the way that the story unfolded in terms of having the dwarves eventually come to Celebrimbor to discuss, and I'll backtrack at some point. We'll get back to talking about Annatar and everything, but uh, how did you feel about sort of that element, this whole sort of subplot between Disa and Durin, and the way they're sort of dealing with this fact that that the two Durins are fighting and everything. And did that work for you as sort of a story structure?
I see. I don't know. I see where they're going with the whole, dwarves are in crisis thing. With the larger thing, obviously, that's pushing them, in the arms of the rings and everything. Um, I'm not that taken with the whole family drama business. I think we got to know how stubborn they are in the previous season as well. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I would be quite happy to see that resolved quite soon. I like Disa's role in the whole thing. I like how fed up she is. She's just not ready to take anybody's BS anymore. Um, I suppose the characters are staying true to who we know them to be from season one, but for me, I don't know. I'm ready to move on, I suppose. And I like what they do with them later on. I like that they come to Eregion. Um, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how Durin the Fourth and Disa react when Papa gets the rings, though.
Yeah, I have to say, Disa, I think, really was the star of this whole situation. Really laying out to Durin for like, look, I don't care about your pride. This is your people, and that has to come ahead of that. And I'll go if you don't. I thought that was really well done. I think. Other than that, I agree that I was ready to move on, but at least they got there. was my feeling. Laid something real down. Um, I want to talk more about Annatar, and we still have so much to get to. But so let's talk really quick about something. I don't
Can
want
I
to. Oh, go ahead.
can I just stop you right there because I see a comment by Mickey Mouse. Is it possible that the same thing caused the sickness of the tree of linden and the earthquake in Khazad-dûm?
and
I,
also
I
just
I wanted to
also
ask you
related to
guys
that.
about that.
Yeah, also just related to that, maybe AO's question. The alignment of those mirrors was that interruption due to a Balrog, because it's all kind of connected. So if you want to try to answer that, and then I can jump in later.
I was gonna ask you guys, Gregory, what do you think?
I don't. I mean, they'll probably find a way to tie it in. It doesn't. I would guess that probably not. Right? If the sickness has to do with one thing, and then I do think that the earthquakes has to do with waking the Balrog. That's sort of what they hinted at in season one. So my guess is that they're probably separate things. But what do you guys think?
So I think, if I remember correctly, that was like a map showing, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
also missed
Mm-hmm.
it actually on my first rewatch, and then I saw like viewing, and then I saw it
Yeah.
somewhere on the. Actually, I think Nerd of the Rings, one of his breakdowns that oh yeah, that's what I did. I forgot about that. So basically, they had transitional moment. So earthquakes begin. They show on the map, they show Mount Doom, and then there's like this wave of blackness spreading, and you see the spread
Hmm.
towards Khazad-dûm. I
Yeah.
think what they was that all this like things that are happening, like this earthquake that's shutting things down, some things are falling down. It's kind of implied that it's because of what happened. Yeah, this scene. Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I think it's mostly implied that it's because of basically the volcano in. But I think
I'm not
we
sure
can
if
always
it's
say that
because of
maybe
the
one part is because
volcano.
of Balrog.
I didn't
Yep.
read it as the volcano. I read it more as it's because of Sauron, in a way, because it's just too convenient. This happens, and it's right in time for
Yeah.
Sauron to distribute the rings and sort of try and get them, under his
Mm.
not wing, but getting some sort of control over them.
Yeah. I mean, we did see him in the trailer kind of knows of the Balrog somehow. So he could be orchestrating some of these things. He could be, I guess, using some kind of his own influence to like spread the earthquake stress all the way to Khazad-dûm, maybe intentionally in some way. I guess it's kind of unclear. It could be like left to interpretation. So I could also see it going that way as well.
I want to skip across to the other side. Well, not really the other side of the map. Let's go east. Let's go to a part that we have not seen until these episodes. Rune. I won't spend too much time here for two reasons. One, there's not quite as much to talk about, sort of lore-wise here, but also I think the main question here has been belabored by people across the internet plenty, so we don't need to go back through it entirely. But we do see the stranger walking with Poppy and Nori, and then Poppy finds them, and then they get attacked by this sort of sand dune people, who look like they may be out of the Mandalorian. And then we go and we see the Dark Lord, the other Dark Wizard, played by Kieran Hines. And I want to get your guys' quick take on which wizards you think we're dealing with here. The only thing I will point out before I get your guys' opinion on this is that moment. I don't know if you guys caught it. Maybe you did. Probably a lot of people did. Where they are talking about him needing to find a Gand. And by Gans meaning a walking staff, walking staff. Which I've been hoping it's not Gandalf, but that seems to me to be leading in that direction. What is your guys' take? Let's start with you, Lakitia.
I mean, they're for sure teasing Gandalf a lot, and people are gonna be pissed off if he doesn't turn out to be Gandalf. But with the three, what were they called, the mystics, saying he's the other one, the Istar. I now read that as not the other, as in not Sauron, but the other one, but rather the other wizard, because they come from this dark wizard being played by Hines.
Right.
Also, at this point, yeah, I think my guess is they're blue wizards. It seems like they're building the story to be that way. I don't know who, if the stranger is in fact Gandalf, then who is Kieran Hines? Is he just a random, sorcerer, or is he supposed to be Saruman? Or if he's supposed to be a blue wizard with the stranger being Gandalf, that makes very little sense to me, narrative wise. So at this point, my guess is that they're actually both blue wizards.
What about you, Strider?
So I've been one of the people hoping from the get-go that we are getting the blue wizards in the show. I was of that theory when we saw the trailer, when we saw Mr. Hines on the screen here. I was like, oh wow, okay, we're getting a magical cult. I mean, so for people listening, we just did a video on this. It's a 10-minute video on our channel. You can check it out. We discussed cases for each of the 5 wizards. So Saruman, Radagast, Gandalf, and the 2 blue wizards. Is stranger? Which one is the stranger going to be? And I have to say, there were some really strong arguments for them both being blue wizards, especially with this magical cult going on. However, when I watched, like episode 2, and they mentioned a Gand, I think even two times, and it's like, I mean, Gandalf's name literally means an elf with a stick or like a staff, and that a Norse name that Tolkien took from one of the Norse poems. So it's implied very strongly here that this is indeed someone who's going to become Gandalf at some point during the show. But I do think that this wizard played by Mr. Hines is going to be some kind of a blue wizard, for sure, because blue wizards in one of the versions to the dark side, so to say. He says about them that he believes that they were founders of some dark cults, some magical cults, and like this is a magical cult. So I feel like at this point, I would, if I had to make a bet, I would say Stranger is Gandalf, purely because of this Gand mention name drop. But I would say that Heinz is he must end up being some kind of a blue wizard, even if he doesn't end up being called a blue wizard. I'm sure he will be inspired by the storyline, and he'll just be like this other evil wizard.
I like. I mean, the comments are on fire right now with the lore on this, and I think that last one that Harry put up, that the evil blue wizard killed the good blue wizard, and Valar sent Gandalf to punish the evil blue wizard, is a very interesting way they could go with this. I want to go to a question that we had a little while back. Why are the runic riders cursed? By what or by who? Does someone with more knowledge than I have the answer to that?
Sorry, what's the question?
The runic riders. This was a little ways back, and it was.
Oh yeah.
AGX 28. Yeah. Why are they cursed? By what or by who?
I have no
idea.
I
am kind of confused as well. Yeah, I don't know. Some kind of a curse.
I think that's entirely their own mythology.
Yeah.
The only thing that reminded me of was Man of the Mountain, from the Paths of the Dead, but it doesn't have anything to do with that, so I have no idea. I think we'll see more of them in the coming episodes. I know that the one person who spoke was one of the actors that was actually announced, so I think his role is going to be a little bit bigger, so I suppose we're going to find out. But yeah, for the dark wizard, that's just a means of manipulation, just getting what he wants. But I don't think he was the one to have cursed them. It doesn't feel like that, but I don't know, beats me.
Well, since
on my side, I think it. I also didn't read it as he cursing them, but he might be using them, and eventually he promised that to heal the curse, whatever it is. But I think there's probably something escaping me. There might be some idea. There's probably some inspiration somewhere in Tolkien that they took this for and just maybe adapted it for purposes of the story. But yeah, so we have a question here. So Couch Apple quote, "If in doubt, always follow your nose." And in season 2, Norris quote, "He's afraid he'd lose control again without a Gand." Hint the stranger's Gandalf. Yeah, you are very correct. At this point, it seems quite possible, quite likely that this is indeed Gandalf.
They're hinting very, very hard, yeah, but I'm just not sure if that's not just, them trying to mislead us. I know that received a lot of criticism in season 1, the mystery boxing and everything, but I don't know. But that does, I really like that one, that the dark blue wizard killed the other one and Gandalf was sent to, avenge him or punish the dark wizard. So
yeah, that's a pretty cool one. Yeah.
Also, Priscilla says one version, Blue Wizards ailed. Another version, Blue Wizards succeeded. Maybe the show is doing both. One Blue Wizard is evil, the other is good. I am good. So, yeah.
Let's handle one more question in this part of the world and then move, since we're already at an hour and we still got stuff to cover. So the last
Yeah.
one from Rune, let's take a look at Big Ronnie Trucking's comment. How do they think they'll play Tom Bombadil? I'm totally okay with them taking liberties with that character if you adapt them in live action. Do they say he's some type of wizard as well? Thoughts? What do you guys think? Do you think they'll fold them into this question with the Dark Wizard? You know, where does, we know he's there, but how are they going to utilize this character?
Oh, wow. His jacket is blue. You see where I'm going with this? Maybe he's going to be one of the Blue Wizards.
He gives the stranger his coat, and that's how the stranger becomes the Blue Wizard.
Yeah, even better. I have no idea. I'm not one of those who would be too excited to be getting Tom Bombadil in the show. For me, he's just too connected to the old forest. I don't want to see him anywhere else. I don't want to see how he manages anywhere else. I want to see him in his environment with his person. I suppose if the stranger is indeed Gandalf, yeah, that's the beginning of the relationship that comes to a close at the end of the Return of the King. I am afraid of him being more magical in terms of doing actual magic, creating stuff, making stuff happen for the screen. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
So I want to end with going through all the stuff with Annatar and Celebrimbor, because it feels.
Can I just? I'm really sorry. Before we move on from Rune, I just want to give a shout out to Poppy. I'm really glad to see her back. When these wandering days came on, it made me teary eyed. I'm really happy to see her back. I'm not so sure I'm quite fond of how they tackle this story, giving us the sappy farewell at the end of season 1, only to basically retcon it at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see her back. I think they have a wonderful dynamic. I hope to see more of it in the coming episode. So yeah, yay, Megan Richards is back. Okay, we can move on now.
I totally agree with both your comments. One, that it's nice to have her back, and two, that the way they did it was a little hack, little choppy. It wasn't super smooth.
It seems like they changed their mind. It was like, okay, Nori, you go off, and then Poppy was received quite well, I think, and
then she catches up. She's like, "How's everyone back home?" And it's like,
yeah,
you
didn't you
saw
just
her.
yeah. Exactly.
And how would she catch up? It's not like you guys have been like
Yeah.
hanging out at a resort the last month. Like,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, so like I said, I want to end eventually with Celebrimbor and Annatar because I think it's the most important thing. But I want to go quickly through a couple things first. I'll bring them up sort of just one at a time. First of all, spiders. Who are they? Are we seeing baby Shelob? Is it more like the spiders in the in Mirkwood with the Hobbit? What's your guys' take on the spider scene? Do we just get spiders because it's a trope in fantasy and Tolkien had a lot of them? What do you guys think? Let's start with you, Strider.
I mean, it is said that Shelob will appear, and there's a soundtrack called Shelob, and it played during the scene. So I suppose the big spider was Shelob, though I would have personally expected the tweet. I'm in my mind. Want to play that? Okay. Yeah, I guess I would have expected Shelob to be bigger, but I guess that's her. I would say that is. We didn't have to see her, but like if it stays like this as this random thing that happened, and he's just managed to go through it, yeah, I think it's a cool Easter egg. If they don't like overplay, if they don't keep going back to her, I feel like it works pretty well.
It seemed so inconsequential to me. It was so random. It was so fan servicey. We don't know what to do with Isildur for 5 minutes, and let's just, stick him in a cave with Shelob because fans love Shelob.
Hmm.
I don't know. I didn't like it. It never felt like anyone was in danger. Not him, not Beric.
Yeah.
Why even do that? I don't know.
I
Very, very fan servicey.
I think that my biggest problem with it, and by the way, I think I said episode three was my favorite of these three, but this was my least favorite part of the three. Not necessarily that I had a problem that they did a spiders thing, but it just didn't feel super well done to me. So like like the orcs chasing them, like nothing comes out of there alive. And it's like I thought you were just trying to get the horse to eat it. It's like why are you obsessed with the horse dying? Like who cares? It's just a horse. And then the like spiders only start coming down from the ceiling when he wakes up. Like that's not how spiders work. Like
Yeah.
just little things. It felt very tropey and fan servicey. Like you said, I didn't really feel the danger of it. Well, okay, let's then go to Pelargir. That's a cool place that we haven't really seen before in any version of Middle Earth that's been put to screen. What was your guys' take on that? And how did you feel about them sort of retconning Bronwyn's death?
I think they probably did it in the best way they could. I mean, the actress decided she didn't want to come back, so I suppose, you know, blaming it all on the wound that she received already is better than just coming up with something completely implausible. So I was quite satisfied with that. I thought Pelargir looked wonderful. I loved it. I love ruins, and I think they did it quite well. I hope we get to see more of it in the upcoming episodes. Um, I don't think I'm that invested in the whole Theo drama. Um, but yeah, I would I would like for them to dig a little deeper into what Pelargir is, how it came to be. I love the um what are they, aqueducts?
Yeah, that was cool.
Aqueducts,
When
yeah.
Isildur was talking a little bit about that, you really get the sense, how technologically advanced Númenóreans are in comparison to Southlanders and just, the other men. So yeah, I think I like that, and I would love for us to learn more about other cities built by Númenóreans in Middle Earth, but I don't suppose we'll get them at all.
You know, I
So on my side, then I would say, I mean, I guess outside meta reasons aside, I feel like it does kind of the timeline here. But if it's just like a couple of days ago or something, I feel like it kind of works because it reminds me of an episode from the Silmarillion where the mother of Maeglin, the guy who ends up eventually
yeah
betraying Gondolin, his mother is hit with a spear,
Mhm.
and they save her. She doesn't die from the physical wound, but it turns out that she does die by the end of the night because the tip of the spear ended up being like poisoned.
Mhm.
I very oversimplify essential part of it. So I feel like maybe it was kind of like an approach like that, which I feel like it works. But I did like Pelargir overall. I think, it's a properly half ruined city or settlement, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of these because I feel like we need to start setting up the presence of Númenor in Middle Earth
yeah
in every way we
Yeah.
can, because Gondor and Arnor founding.
And
yeah
it was also a callback to Frodo, and the wounds that he receives and the wounds that he can't heal in Middle Earth at all. Obviously, his story, ends differently than Bronwyn's. But yeah, it's a theme common in Tolkien: wounds that just wouldn't heal, and the consequences of war and happy endings not being being bittersweet. And
yeah.
I suppose they could have handled it worse than they did. It was I didn't quite like the when we see Arondir approach the pyre and we see a flashback to Bronwyn smiling. I thought they could just mention who that was and not show her laughing face. I mean, you need to trust your audiences, but they didn't.
You know, I did like the, as Strutter said, the sort of the way they chose to go about her death, in terms of the, the plot wise, and I also liked the line they gave Arondir for that personally. Coming back to Theo, I think if nothing else, he as an actor took a huge step forward from season one. And when you're that young, 2 years makes a big difference. And at the very least, I felt like I saw that in the context of the character, which is really cool. And then where is it in the chat? Someone says that Harry, find this for me, about Theo becoming the under the mountain. The is that the one you had up a minute ago? Oh yeah, Theo is so disloyal from 04N BOD. Leo is so disloyal. I think he may be the king under the mountain, but there would need to be a time skip. Well, we know they're not shy with skipping around time-wise in this. Do you guys think that's a reasonable theory, or do you think it's likely that he becomes one of the Nazgul, or neither?
Well, first I would say just a quick shout out, hello to Twig the Wonder Kid. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I think so. Someone in the comments said that this storyline doesn't lead anywhere. I feel like this storyline here is probably future. I feel like we're not going to see anything come out of this storyline for like a season, but I feel like it is important to set up a lot of stuff for the last 2-3 seasons, especially the last 2 seasons. So I feel we kind of have to like stick with takes us. I hope it takes us somewhere cool, but I think nobody likes having a storyline of like a mopey teenage kid. Like we all had this or most people had this cringe phase, and like seeing a teenager going through stuff like that, and he's going through some very bad stuff. Like it kind of reminds you of all this like bad stuff from the past. But so I feel like we kind of maybe have to stick with this, and hopefully there's a nice payoff to this.
I think there might be.
I think he might end up being a Nazgul, the king as well. But I feel like there will need some time skips for sure. But yeah, like you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that they seem to be doubling down on Theo's dad mystery. Him asking Arondir again, do you know who my dad was and everything, and that was already a thing in season 1, and people were speculating, is it Halbrand, blah blah blah, because it is kind of weird that nobody would know, that Arondir wouldn't know. So I'm thinking maybe it's Theo's dad who becomes this big villain, and then Theo has this moral dilemma on who to support. I don't know. I think we might see him in season 3. I mean, I sure hope so. Maybe even before. But yeah, I'm thinking that his dad might try and drag him the dark route.
All right, here's my dark horse guess on this. My prediction: Elendil, after Isildur's mom died, was really sad and crossed the sea on one of his voyages, and and actually Theo's real name is Anarion.
Well, that's certainly one of the theories of all time.
That's a long way to go for a booty call. I mean,
but he didn't know. It was like a hookup. Yeah. And like he finds out. I don't.
I'm sure it turns out to be that.
No. Sorry. I think you got it the wrong way. This is the old Osgilion. Those who know the reference, cheers to you. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned Isildur just now.
Maybe he's Celeborn. Maybe he's Celeborn. We don't know who Celeborn is, so maybe that's the big mystery box of season 2. Season 1 was who's Sauron. Season 2 is who's Celeborn.
Yeah. We get to see quite a bit of Isildur, who's really the other important character that we are spending time with in this part of the world here. I always felt like he was a little too whiny for my taste in season 1. it seems like maybe we're getting a slightly more mature version of him here. What do you think of what we get to see of him in the first couple episodes? How do you guys feel about where they're heading with this storyline? And then, if you guys want, please go into what you think it is that's happening when Theo gets taken in episode 3 and what you think's going on there.
Yeah, first of all, I agree with you that he does seem to have matured a little bit. I would have preferred the arc to have been a little bit more, I don't know. It's just in season 1 he was this spoiled brat for the whole season, and now we meet him in season 2 and all of a sudden he's much more responsible, with the lady when he's being stabbed. If that was season 1, Isildur, he would have, thrown a huge tantrum, I suppose, and now he's all noble, etc. So I don't think his character arc was very nicely done, but I'm liking this new Isildur. Yeah, he was getting very irritating in season 1, so this is looking better. Um, I have no idea what's going to happen with Theo, but I suppose these might be the people that Astrid is connected with. I don't know.
What do you think, Strider?
I don't have any particular hopes or opinions of this storyline so far because I'm not sure where it's going exactly. A bit earlier, I feel like this storyline will be mostly about setting up stuff for future seasons. Honestly, I am curious to see what kind of a conflict will be there in this season, in this part of the story. Curious where all of this is going. It does end up. I think that's the way the episode ends. Is so shout out to Beric. Beric gets taken, and Theo somehow knows where to find him, and he goes and helps Isildur to like find the horse. But as they are getting out of this bandits camp, they all get attacked by something that's kind of the air, and I feel like this we are
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we are about to meet.
Oh,
I assume next
yeah,
episode.
obviously.
Some end lives. So I think
You
that
see,
was
that's
like the
because
highlight of this storyline for me so far.
I didn't manage to finish the episode, and I forgot what happens to Theo. I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously, that's gonna be fun. I actually, I gotta say, I was hoping they would leave Entwives a mystery. I don't need to see every single thing that Tolkien left unexplained being explained to us by Amazon. I think I would prefer it just to be regular Ent guys. But yeah, I suppose that's going to be interesting from Arondir's perspective. So
I mean, I think for me, it kind of works that we will see them because they are specifically mentioned as, like they had their gardens in Rovanian, which is like north of Mordor and so on. So, and then these gardens kind of get burnt by Sauron as the Battle of the Last Alliance, as the armies of Men Elves march towards Mordor. So he kind of burns those. So I feel like it actually does work. I agree that I really agree with this general sentiment that we don't need to see the prequel story for every single thing unexplored. But I feel like getting endwise, I think we had it's a pretty good idea to include them here. I feel like they kind of fit well.
So here's my question about that: are they only Entwives, or are they Ents and Entwives? I mean, I know which it should be theoretically, but like, what do you think the context is? And why are we getting Entwives? And is this the right location for there to be Entwives? Let's discuss Entwives. What you guys take?
So I think so. I'm not sure where we are exactly on the map, but I feel like we are. I think this is probably happening
close
somewhere
to Pelargir.
yeah, but I feel like they are really dancing the distance here. Like Kirit Ungol is is just like a general idea of the map.
Yeah.
It's kind of on the northern part of Mordor, in the mountains, and
I
we
don't
have
think
this
it's
whole
supposed to be Kirithungol, though. I didn't read it
yeah.
as such. I thought it was just a random place where Shelob is at right now.
Well, anyway, the point is it's somewhere in
Yeah.
those mountains. We have Ithilien, or what will
Mhm.
be known as Ithilien, which is
Yeah.
like this. It's like basically between River Anduin and the mountains of Mordor. You have this huge forest. At this time, it would
Yeah.
probably be much bigger, and it could also probably the lands north of Mordor, which is actually where the groove
Mhm.
from season one, which is where the half
Mhm.
towards the end of the season. So I feel like we might end up seeing the both ants and antwives, because antwives lived in the gardens, like in the orchards and so on, and ants like the forests. But I feel like at this time, Sauron hasn't yet burned all of it. So I feel like it's quite easy for ants and antwives to be roughly in the same overlapping area. So I feel like we can probably get both. But the point that we are also close to Pelargir, it's like that's really far away. But again, the show really doesn't translate this distance between places well. So I feel like they're just like playing fast and loose depending on where the plot takes them. But I guess we'll see like in the next episode too what's exactly
Mhm.
happening here.
I don't know. I think they're still really, really close to Pelargir because we've seen
I mean, it's
similar. Yeah, hard to say. It would be interesting to see a couple, an end couple. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I would rather leave that to the imagination. The interaction of ants with ant wives. If we have to see ant wives, I'd rather just see them without the husbands.
I would love to see a little bit of why the Entwives left. Like, I mean, like if we get a little bit of that mythology, I would find that kind of cool. Um,
I would find it kind of cool if it was written by Tolkien.
yeah.
Um,
You're right.
but still, I think I like the mystery, and I think I would prefer just seeing them in a sort of slice of life kind of situation where they just come across them in the wild and see how they're doing, and they don't need to give us a whole lot of exposition on that. Just just give us a glimpse of the ant wives. That would be enough for me, I think.
I think you're probably right that in this context, less is more, because I think that's also
Yeah.
partly what made the whole question of the Entwives so powerful in Lord of the Rings. And we'll see how they handle it. The show has not always shown an ability to handle things deftly. If it
Yeah.
had, then maybe I'd trust them a little more with some more time with the Entwives on screen. But that would be my biggest concern, that they'd over-explain it. So I agree with you. I think I did know we were going to go a little over today since we were tackling 3 episodes. But let's do one more place before we come back and close with Celebrimbor and Annatar, and go across the sea to Númenor, where we haven't spent any time at all yet today.
Mm.
And the primary thing we're dealing with here is sort of the line of succession, right? And Muriel, who's now blind, and her losing the faith of the Númenorians. What did you think of how that was portrayed, and particularly Arian's role in the way that unfolded, and sort of the choices her character's making to start the season? Strider, let's start with you.
Well, I have to say, it has been, in terms of the concept of her character, interesting to me. But her character is, and also she's paired with Kemen. In season 1, they really got they were done dirty. None of their scenes are basically in the show, actually. So we really see little of her. And I feel like, especially we saw a little of her in season 1, and now in season 2 to just see her being like, oh, boo, Muriel, or whatever. Why is this? I mean, okay, she's angry because her brother died, as far as they know. But I mean, I'm not sure what to think of it. I feel like, again, we are here seeing again the issues that the show has and will for the end of the show, which is a very tight. It's just really there's depth sometimes and rushed and kind of like that the plot demands it to happen. So I'm just like I'm not. I see what they're happening. I appreciate it, but I'm not completely sure. I don't enjoy the dynamic of the story here. So I like something's just to happen. We need to get here, so people in the room will just jump to this conclusion that needs to happen in order for the story to move forward. If all that makes sense.
Yeah, I see the appeal of the political drama. Obviously, the whole political conundrum is in the lore as well. I really didn't like Arian's role in this. It felt so naive in a way, and I particularly disliked the scene in the canteen. Somebody like Farazan being given his political strategy by Arian, and something that she randomly found, that was just, I don't know. It felt very, very simplistic to me. I think somebody like him would be way too cunning, and he would have a very, very detailed plan, and Arian wouldn't be his advisor. So yeah.
It also felt like they were missing somehow the link between the Palantir and why Eärion's mind was changed. I agree. It felt like we were missing a scene in there. The one thing I found interesting, right, that really seemed to be sort of an inflection point. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about it in terms of whether or not I think it was good or not. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on it. The whole thing with the eagle, right? They talk about the eagle and how it would be this auspicious omen and everything. And then lo and behold, an eagle shows up and Farazan is right there in front of the portal. Like, what do you think that meant? Like, what was it? To me, I have to admit, it felt maybe a little bit like the eagle was just there because. But I'd like to think that there is something else deeper there that that either I missed or we're not just supposed to know yet. What do you guys think?
I don't know, given that they said that the eagle was also present at her father's coronation, I suppose this is a clear sign of the Valars favoring the faithful, obviously. Um, the way it was resolved didn't sit that well with me. Again, it seemed a little bit of a naive form of storytelling. Everybody's just being like, "Oh yeah, the eagle is here to show favor to Farazan." Um, I don't know, Strider.
Well, the one huge, speaking of the lore, lore actually, yours truly, the big eagles speak. They're intelligent animals. In the movies, they do not speak, and taken by Peter Jackson. And I feel like it fits because it doesn't really contribute. Doesn't necessarily contribute that much to the story. Like a bit of lore was cut, but I feel like the show could have lore instead of going with what Peter Jackson did in the movies, because then this scene. But maybe that's why, because then this scene can be left as it is here. So what's happening here? Like, it's ambiguous, or like you can interpret it in several ways. But this is what I mean when I said that some of the things need to happen, or people need to come to certain conclusions because they need to, because the plot requires them to, is exactly what I was talking about here. the eagle appears on what is supposed to be the coronation of Miriel. The eagle appears, and then Pharazôn happens to be the closest one to it. And then,
Right.
like, how smart, insanely intelligent men and women, ladies of Númenor, tricked into, like, oh yeah, well, let's support Pharazôn by this other guy, Lord Belzegar, being like, Pharazôn, like, how is this a political debate, you know? So I feel like this scene really suspension of disbelief, because
Yeah.
the logic, you know, it just feels like it happened because it kind of needed to happen.
That's sort of been my problem with everything, and not everything, but a lot of stuff we've seen in Númenor over these first two seasons. Like I think you remember me starting my least favorite part from season one was the whole little subplot with the Númenorians being worried the elves are going to take their jobs and stuff like that, right? And then there's these crowd scenes where, like, you know, it's that like classic trope of someone says no, like you're like the mob following someone, but like they don't build in enough time for a mob to realistically want to follow someone, and I felt like we saw that again here. Yeah, but anyway, just my 2 cents on it. What do you think? Anything else to add about Númenor, or should we skip along to the perhaps I think maybe the most interesting part of the first few episodes, Annatar and Celebrimbor?
By all means.
Yeah, we can. But I think there is maybe just perhaps we should discuss real quick before we move there, which is regarding the orcs. So I forgot which episode is this, but we get the reveal of Damrod, the stone giant slayer, and the one who eats dragon bones. There was the introduction of this massive troll, and he I mean, we heard a metal song played within a Tolkien adaptation out loud, with the screamy vocals singing the ballad of Damrod, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, here it is. So I'm and there's one other little thing that's connected to this scene here as well, but I just was looking forward to hear maybe your thoughts on this. Maybe, Lakita, do you want to share? And how did you feel about the screaming metal song in Tolkien adaptation?
I just think that made a lot of people very happy, and I'm happy for that. I personally, I think it didn't feel as out of place as I feared it would. I like it. The first thing I thought when I saw the guy was like, "Wow, that's a lot of chest hair." But yeah, I'm afraid I don't have many thoughts on that. I'm sorry. It's it's a troll.
Oh, you mean big sexy?
No comment.
Yeah, Lakitia's into Círdan. I'm more of like a Damrod guy when it comes to
okay. You can have him.
But I think this is the other needed to mention, because I saw so many people on Twitter arguing against this, and it's like, I respect your desire to defend everything Tolkien. I respect the enthusiasm, but as a friendly suggestion, how about reading a book instead of just taking the movie as canon? Honestly, the amount of ridiculousness I've seen on Twitter with this is probably one of the worst things I've seen. People criticizing about the show. It's like ridiculous. Orcs. There are several versions of what the orcs are supposed to be. One of the versions, and that's the one of, is that one that is exactly. Kyle was talking about this. So on the left, we see a scene from the Lord of the Rings movies. One of who the orcs are is that they were bred like dirt and whatever. And fair enough, that's one of the theories. That's kind of something we get in the movies. This is not the only canon thing. If and let's use some logic here. If the orcs were originally this elves who were corrupted, would it not make sense that they reproduce as other living beings, perhaps? Not to mention the fact that this is literally one of the things that Tolkien. So if you're gonna give trouble to the show, how about you actually do some proper investigation and then shout out loud? I think that's maybe the way to go about it. I feel like this scene was pretty cool. I really like the fact that they keep making orcs more relatable, because honestly, of all the races we have ever seen on like across Middle Earth, orcs were actually those who suffered the most, because used to be this. They were kidnapped, tortured, tormented, twisted by the dark forces. Not of like, I mean, I guess elves were the ones that suffered the most because they turned into orcs. It's like one of the worst things that ever happened in the world, and people give trouble for them because they have a family. Like that's the whole point of the orcs in the show, to show there's way more depth and importance to them. And Tolkien was so passionate about it that he never settled on it. And now I'm ranting on it because it's very important. But yeah.
Yeah, it actually
So
it's very relatable. I just wanted to say that, yeah, when I saw this couple with the baby, this is exactly what me and my partner look like when the baby has been sleeping the whole night. So very relatable.
Yeah, it's certainly I agree that it's the most unique aspect of what this show is doing, and the most interesting, right? It's a side of Tolkien we haven't seen before, and I do think it's maybe the side that the show's explored best. Both what we saw with Adar in season 1, which really led us into this idea that that was a huge theme of season 1, and maybe one of the things it did best was exploring this notion that there needed to be a place for the orcs to be able to be okay, right? And then they're just going about it poorly, I guess you could argue, Yeah. Let's see. Orcs having babies, yes, but orcs showing emotional affection to their babies, no. Orcs are evil. That's clear. Comments are groundless. Sorry, orcs are not victims who deserve their own lands and culture. I mean, Tolkien himself did make a point to say that he didn't want orcs to be, as I think someone put it, mindless red shirts for an evil, dark lord, right? He really grappled with how to, it didn't sit well with him philosophically to just have this sort of like mindless group, and especially when the imperishable flame can only come from Eru, right? So it's like, how do you reconcile the fact that there is this sort of living being? So I don't know. I think the professor himself would probably disagree with that, or at least have a more nuanced opinion of it. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I just want to quickly answer to this because I think that's well said. Orcs being humanized has been already done by Tolkien himself. Sorry. So in the books, in Sam hears 2 orcs. Those orcs hate, first of all, their bosses. They are in fear of them, thinking about how they would like to be able to go on. And that's not the only reference for it. When Merry and Pippin are captured by the Uruk-hai, there's actually several other groups. So they are also joined by orcs from Misty Mountains and orcs from Mordor, and you can see like bickering and like loyalty within the groups to each other and so on. So Tolkien already did a lot of, and there's way more, of course, across his lore. It's not in the forefront because of course we see this from the good guys, and orcs obviously have been pushed into being very rough and animalistic, but it's also it is a part of the lore that Tolkien did grapple with them, with this emotional and like the good and evil within them. So I feel like it's a good thing that the show is showing this to us. But I mean, everybody has their own sensibilities for this, so fair enough.
Lakitia, I don't know if I can ever forgive you. I'm gonna have Baby York do stuck in my head for the next 6 months. I'm sure of it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Sure.
We are going so long. Let's get to the end here. Let's talk about uh, Celebrimbor and the arrival or reveal of Annatar, and throw in a little bit of talking about uh, the dwarves arriving there as well. Um, I think that's really probably plot wise the most important thing that we're seeing. I mean, it goes right to the name of the series, right? So, what do you guys think of Celebrimbor in these first few episodes? And I want your answer, both the acting and the way that they're pulling around this aspect of the story. What do you guys think? And you can compare it with season one, or just go about it. Really how you feel about this. However you guys like to answer that.
Take it away, Strider.
I like Celebrimbor so far. One of the favorite things about the storyline is the scene from season one where, and I definitely missed it on my first rewatch or my first viewing. There's like, I think it's Galadriel, Elrond, Celebrimbor, and Gil-galad standing, like in the middle of the smith, of the smithy, and there's this shadow of a chain leading to Celebrimbor. And I feel like that was such a great visual, and I just love thinking of that. And I feel like we hear, and they keep saying throughout the show, they're kind of like mentioning, like, once he gains your trust, he can sculpt your thoughts and so on. And he did gain his trust already in a way in season one, because they did work together, right? So the doors were already opened. And here, Halbrand comes back, and we see. I feel like Charles Edwards has been doing a great job. Honestly, I like him. He surprised casting in season one, but I feel like he took the role well, and I like him portraying this. It's like he is always on some conscious level trying to like shake off like obviously some kind of like manipulation, like mind control, but it's like he's trying to shake off something, but he's not sure what. Like when you are slightly troubled or like you have some anxiety, but you're like not sure what's happening. And I feel like he's portraying that in a very subtle way. Like there's something going on, but he's like not conscious that there is something going on, but he's still subconsciously trying to fight against it. And I feel like it works really well, honestly. I enjoy it quite well. But I think Lakiti had some interesting thoughts about him in season one as well.
Yeah. What I don't like about him in season two is actually that he seems very self-conscious or very, very eager to prove himself. I mean, at this point, he's a great, great master. He's this celebrated craftsman, and everybody's looking up to him. So him just feeling like I have to live up to my grandfather's name and everything. I would have preferred it if he was a little bit more self assured, and he's had a great career by this point. But I'm very much enjoying Charles Edwards' performance. I think they have a really good dynamic. I would have wished them to tackle this a little bit more subtly. Sauron's machinations and manipulations are very obvious, and of course we know he's the villain and everything, but I would have liked a little bit more subtlety, especially with this scene that Harry's just showing on the screen right now, and he's looking very angelic, and it's a very painterly image of him descending from the heavens and everything. I think I would like them to go, just to tone it down a little bit. um but yeah, it does seem like they set it all up pretty interestingly. I think the two have great chemistry. I This is something that I wanted to ask you guys. What did you think about Annatar losing his touch with the dwarves here? What Harry's just showing on the screen, and Celebrimbor stepping in and you know, saving the day. How did you guys interpret that?
I think it was, on one hand, a little easy and convenient, like a way of making us be like, oh, right, Durin 4, he's the good guy here, and so like he doesn't quite trust Sauron, like
Mm.
that's the one aspect that I didn't necessarily love about it, but there's still something to that. There's a reason that they do that, which is that it kind of works. And it may have not been particularly subtle, but there is this element of, yeah, like, of course we want like our good characters to be smart, our favorite characters to be smart and see through the deception and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was a little heavy-handed, but I didn't hate the idea behind it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a similar page, though I think I liked it a bit more because I feel like I think there's some mention somewhere that dwarves in general weren't easily swayed. Like he had little luck manipulating the dwarves directly. So I kind of choose to attribute this into that as well. Like just the way the dwarven mind works, he just didn't. How do you say? He didn't bite the bait, I guess, in this scene, and just went on with his way during, and with that he was managed to like kind of push past Annatar's words, and then Celebrimbor jumps in, which is a cool thing to show because Celebrimbor is supposed to be BFFs with the dwarves as well. So
to that point, Strider, I think it also gives us a little more room to see a contrast when Durin 3 gets swept up in wanting a ring, right? Which I think it's the direction they seem to be going with this. And I think at least dramatically speaking, it sets us up well to have division within the dwarves, which drives the story forward.
Can I just there's a comment by one of the viewers, Max Bretschneider. One thing you haven't talked about was the killed elven messengers from Lindon. Who killed them? So
that's
theories?
a good question. Yeah.
Anyone?
Nothing particular
like
comes to mind. That's
I mean, I
except
think
some,
I think
like,
it's Sauron.
Yeah, it feels like it has to be Sauron, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I see a comment saying whites, as in barrow whites. Could be. I guess they might have had some chains on them. I feel.
AZ Production says
Might have
Gregory
had some.
killed him. I think that's a good bet. Yeah.
So I guess, and then, I mean, we know we're gonna see them at some point later on this season, so I guess that's a cool way to include them in the story. Like, why not? If that's the way to go about it, I'm happy with that. It's the Barrow Whites, and then it's because Sauron awakened them and then released them in the area or something.
What did you guys think about this sort of Jesus-y portrayal of Annatar coming down and wow? Like, and this is where I'm sort of going with it. Coming back to the lore side of things here, I could be misremembering, but my memory was that Annatar was portrayed as an elf who had come and was accepted. But I could just be misremembering that. Is it canon that he was actually Maiar and presented himself that way, or
I think he presented himself as an emissary from the Valar.
Okay,
so it's never specified whether he's supposed to be an elven emissary or a Maya.
Gotcha.
I mean, if he's supposed to present himself, but I sort of got the impression that he's supposed to be this sort of angelic presence. So I didn't think that they necessarily thought he was just another elf. But maybe
I kind of got it
something
as
up.
well like that.
It's late.
Yeah, he said he was an emissary of the Valar.
But for me,
but yeah, which form?
Yeah, I still wish they would have gone a slightly subtler way with this. This was so over the top. The whole heavenly imagery, very painterly, very, I don't know. I was like, really, really.
You
He's
know,
meant to ensnare Celebrimbor, that's obvious, but please make it
it was a
just a
bit
little less kitschy.
too much of a thirst trap.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of thirst traps, you know,
Yeah.
when Celebrimbor is like, okay, no, I'm gonna go and lie to Gil-galad. I don't know. I felt like Annatar got a stiffy there. It was just, I don't know. He was just like, ta da da, yeah, it's working. My machinations are working. He's doing it. He just, his eyes just lit up, and
You know,
wow.
my one big, I guess, gripe with all this was that, like, by the way, I should say this whole thing overall was actually some of my favorite stuff. You know, I was taking notes during these episodes for this and stuff, and I think this is one of I was looking through, and I had like almost no notes for this part because I actually started to just get sucked in and watch, which is what you all always want to have happen. And in particular, I thought they both did a fantastic job in the acting in these scenes here. But the one thing, and again, acting wise, I think he actually did a pretty good job covering for the writing here. But man, Celebrimbor is so gullible, and it's just like you to, as Strider was saying, it has something to do with the fact that, like, they mention, you know, once Sauron gets in your brain, it's really easy to sort of succumb to him a second time, so to speak. So I assume that's where they're going with it. But like, it just felt so easy for him to get at Celebrimbor. And I want to tie that in with, what do you guys think about that moment where he kind of gives Celebrimbor a look and he takes the mithril from him and puts it in himself? Like, how do you feel? What do you guys think about this sort of the gullibility of Celebrimbor? Do you think it fits in this particular moment with mithril? How did you feel that fit into the whole thing?
I mean, I think on my side, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I think on my side, and I feel like the fact that Sauron said he could in order to make the manipulation easier, and then he went for like the killing punch, you know, like with the whole glowy presentation, because it's all about the presentation. Like, you know, so he got rid of the messengers, and then he told the truth to Celebrimbor, but in a slightly twisted way. And he does this several times. And then, you know, plus all the whole presentation with the majestic, I'm coming from the west, or whatever he's trying to denote there. And then I feel like by the time we come to this scene with the mithril, I feel like he has completely taken control. But he has mentally wrestled Celebrimbor down, and he has him like pinned, and he can kind of like manipulate him at this point in any way he wants, almost. Mithril moment, I guess that's Celebrimbor kind of releases concentration to this wise angelic being that's here to kind of guide him to his greatest achievement of his life as a craftsman. So for me, it kind of works, but I also see the holes, and I can see like why maybe with some things you haven't been that impressed.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
Can I just before we move on from Celebrimbor, this is actually a callback to an earlier scene when Galadriel had her vision, and we saw Celebrimbor being impaled on these sort of spikes, etc. Do you guys think this is how Celebrimbor's eventual death is going to play out in the show? I know this is more of a speculations territory, but I was wondering what you guys think.
it struck me as more abstract. It could very well be that that's how they do it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But took it in the context, it felt very stylistic. It felt in a way that it was more just like an interpretation of him being wrapped in the ropes of the metaphorical Sauron's, his influence and his mental bind, so to speak.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was kind of like mostly like that. I feel like it was mostly like the metaphor of it, like it's the foresight
Okay.
coming in forefront.
I hope so. I really want to see the Celebanner thing, or Celebrimbor, or however you want to call it. So I'm still crossing my fingers. I know that's a pretty graphic way to
That's
see
gonna be wild.
show. So yeah, I really want to see that.
Well, we are pushing 2 hours, so if you guys don't have anything else, let's wrap up. And I want to use a little holdover from what we were doing with the recaps. I'd love to hear, to wrap up, I would love to hear your favorite thing and your least favorite thing from these first 3 episodes, and then what you're hoping for or looking forward to most in episode 4. Either of you can start, whoever would like to go.
Strider?
I mean, okay, I can start and then I'll sing. So the thing that comes to my mind first for the thing I dislike. So let's start with that. I guess I was hoping for more of an explanation through the Sauron prologue flashback. I feel like I was hoping for more, especially in regards to the initial motives of the elves to look for something like the rings. So yeah, I feel like I wish more to it, and hopefully we get. I also am not a huge fan of things happening in Númenor. Like it's not the beats itself; it's like time to like build to them. It all felt very rushed, I have to say. The things I think I overall enjoyed this whole Celebrimbor, and it's happening. We are seeing it on screen, and overall, minor gripes aside, I think it's great. I had a lot of fun. I think the portrayal was great. If an angelic being shows up with that presentation, I'll also be like, "Yep, you're the emissary of the Lord. I'll help you out with whatever you want to do." I can understand that. And I feel like I'm very curious about the wizard storyline in Rune. I think that's maybe the one that I'm curious and looking forward to the most. So I think that also answers the question that you asked as well. What's the thing I'm looking forward to? But whatever it is, I think that's the one that's like the most mysterious. It's like the most original storyline. I'm kind of looking forward to it the most because I'm very curious who the wizard is, and I'm even more curious who Kieran Hines is playing. So I think that's probably the thing I'm most for.
As for me, so for the least favorite, I have 2 things. I really, really disliked all the callbacks to Peter Jackson's trilogy, like the we're going in circles, and with Nori and Poppy hiding under the canvas, and them not seeing them, the dead marshes thing. So I'm really not a fan of that, and also I really, really groaned audibly when as Matt from Nerd of the Rings called it, the Slim Shady mystic came back. That was, please, no, no, no. I'm sorry. I hated her in season 1. I don't want her to come back. And my favorite things were actually Pelargir. I really like that. I hope to spend much more time there, and also just Círdan and just how lovely he is. So
yeah, just adding on, people, feel free to give your answers to these 3 in the comments. Some of you already are, but we'd love to see them.
What about you, Gregory?
For my what's that?
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. For me, let's start with the least favorite. Get the bad out of the way first. I to me, it really is that element of sort of just rushing through things without letting us get emotional grounding. Sort of the Game of Thrones season 8 problem, right? Not letting us live with development in places where we could really take a whole 2 episodes to get through what they take 20 minutes to get through. That frustrates me, and I do feel like there's still some weak parts with the writing, although it is improved. My favorite thing, probably, I'm going to go Strider. I think it has to be the way that we're seeing this relationship evolve between Celebrimbor and Annatar. Maybe in particular because I thought that the Celebrimbor storyline was one of the weakest in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been really cool to see how that evolves, and especially that it really is the heart of what the show is supposed to be. So I hope they go deeper. I hope we get more and richer and darker. But it is, it's off to a pretty good start, I think, in that regard.
I think for me, it's just that this was the one thing that I was looking the most forward to, the whole Celebrimbor plotline and Annatar. And I really have high hopes, and I don't think they can ever, reach the heights that I want them to. But yeah, it's showing lots of, I don't know,
moments.
Yeah. So high hopes here.
I hear you on that one for sure, because there is a way that's in my brain that they could do it that would be amazing, and it's very hard to live up to the expectations of what you've been envisioning for a long time. The thing I'm looking forward to the most, I have to disagree with Lakitia on this one, though this might be where I get myself in trouble with expectation. I am so looking forward to seeing a version of Tom Bombadil on screen, although I am very worried about it not being very good. but it is something I've wanted to see since 2001 when it was not in the Fellowship. So, or Peter Jackson's Fellowship. Looks like we may have lost Lakitia.
No, I'm still here.
So, just the camera.
My camera battery just ran out.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're wrapping up anyway. Do either of you guys have anything else to say to the crowd this evening? Or afternoon, depending on
stay hydrated.
Yeah, that's always a good kind of advice. I'm just excited to discuss all the nerdy stuff that's going to be happening in the next month or so. So yeah, thanks. Just cheers to everybody who tuned in. Yep. We'll be doing this for the duration of the whole season.
Everybody,
we have a lot of guests as well, probably from some other friendly channels. We already had some of them in season 1 as well, so we're looking forward to all that. And yeah, there's going to be so much stuff to discuss, so looking forward to it.
Well, yeah, and thanks for having me back for this one episode.
Thanks for being with us.
It was lovely chatting with you guys.
And like Lakitia, we will be having other really awesome guests the next 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it's going to be. And thank you for sticking with us through this marathon, tackling 3 episodes. We're really looking forward to seeing you guys next Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye. I'm waving. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.